Hey all, here are OS Reviews. In this video, we're taking a quick look at the Anker Prime Smart Desktop Charging Station and also their newest Qi 2 magnetic power bank. Now, if you're getting deja vu, that's because a couple of days ago, we checked out the equivalent products, essentially, from Basis. So, although I don't want to call this Anker's revenge, it's a funny coincidence that a competitor releases a product and then another company in the same space creates their own version a few days later, essentially one-upping it in many aspects. But ultimately, competition is good for us as consumers, as it pushes companies to become even more innovative and feature-rich. And so starting with their MagGo power bank first, this is a 10,000 milliamp hour capacity slim power bank that provides up to 30 watts if you're using the USB Type-C port, and up to 15 watts if you are using the Qi 2 wireless charging standard. And for those unfamiliar, all Qi 2.0 devices support MagSafe, since there is a magnetic ring built on in. You can also attach a sticker onto Android phones and have it just more easily attach onto the back of your device, and also upgrading the charging speed from 7.5 watts in the previous generation Qi to now 15 watts as the default. The capacity is sufficient for charging most phones around 2 times or so, with again the fastest charging possible using that Type-C port if you're okay with a non-wireless approach. And Anker's power bank comes in 4 colors, including black, white, pink, as well as a light green. And of course, it is a smart charger in the sense that if temperatures are too high or the device reaches 100%, it will stop charging automatically. So inside of the packaging here, we have just the actual MagGo charger itself, and underneath we'll also find access to a USB Type-C to Type-C charging cable, as well as a quick start guide. Quick look at the build and design. Have to say that the Anker MagGo is very well constructed because it's using a aluminum alloy metal frame, giving it just a bit more of a solid feel, as well as a soft touch rubber finish on the front to provide some extra grip and also preventing your phone from scratching when setting it down, compared to the aforementioned variant from Basis. Here is actually built out of plastic completely, including the sides, as well as there is no soft touch rubber finish on the front. So it does look and feel a bit more refined. Also, both of these Qi 2 power banks have the same 10,000 milliamp hour capacity, but despite that, Anker's is a little bit more slim and compact, as you can tell there. That being said, it looks like the Basis version has a USB Type-A port in addition to Type-C, whereas on the slimmer MagGo, there is only USB Type-C for both input and output if you're not using the wireless charging pad. Otherwise, you'll also get a metal accented key that you can press on to gauge how much battery is left out of 4 LEDs. This is again compatible with most recent iPhones supporting MagSafe, as well as any Android phone with Qi charging support. It's pretty easy just to attach on there and gets a nice and secure fit. And after just a second or so, the charging here will then start automatically, as you can tell there, just reaching a little bit faster speeds compared to generations past. And again, that magnet just makes it a little easier to carry around. That being said, one feature that you don't get on this particular model would be kickstand functionality, so you can't really use it for video consumption. It doesn't pop up by itself. Unlike some of their other designs in their collection, this one is really all about that portability and being as slim as possible, but working quite well. Again, very firm when it comes to the magnet, not really sliding around, as you can tell here, so it's not going to drop your device as you are using it, with the aforementioned wireless charging light now also being activated. And I can verify that when wireless charging is in progress, the power bank and phone both remain relatively cool in terms of thermals, doesn't get too hot or anything like that, despite having a very slim chassis. As long as you're in this general region in contact with the charger, it still continues to function, including, as you can tell here, even if you have a slimmer case, the wireless charging won't be interrupted either. That being said, if your case is too thick, then it may impede on the MagSafe or magnetic function part, unless you have a ring on the outside of your case. And now a quick test using the USB Type-C port with the wired charging mode instead. In fact, we can verify that it is indeed charging at around 30 watts or so as rated, so no issues here. In fact, it's sufficient for even juicing up some smaller laptops, including this Chromebook here in this demo is currently charging without too many problems. Granted, it's not the fastest charger in the world. For laptops, that is, more power-hungry devices may require around 45 watts, but still, it's sufficient as a minimum amount to start charging some of these larger devices as well. And that is another advantage compared to the Basis variant that could only output at 22.5 watts using the wired charging. What I will say though is if you're charging 2 devices simultaneously, including using wired as well as Qi charging, just keep in mind that 30 watts is still going to be the maximum output total, so it would be getting split between those 2 sections, with the Type-C, for instance, reducing down to 15 watts instead. So not going to be as fast if you want the quickest speeds, and that is where plugging in one device at a time might be beneficial. All in all, though, it offers good performance when it comes to thermals being still relatively cool, and safe charging, and a very nice construction quality. So aside from missing a USB Type-A port, I do think that Anker's variant here trumps the version from Base's. And now a closer look at the Prime Smart Desktop Charging Station, perhaps a slightly more interesting product. So Anker's version offers up to 250 watts total using the USB Type-C ports. So you can definitely use this one for charging up even more power-hungry laptops, including MacBooks, for instance, juicing over 50% in less than half an hour for rapid charging. And like Base's, Anker have also built in a large LCD display that allows you to monitor the charging speed on each port. And for navigation, they even give you a dial that you can use to twist on and change some of the display properties, which was technically missing on the Base's variant. It can even be used as a desk clock, and it charges up to 6 devices simultaneously on here. Each device, once it reaches 100%, will stop charging automatically. Relatively compact, again, powered by GaN or gallium nitride, allowing it to reach the higher wattages despite a smaller frame. Last but not least, this even has an optional companion app that you can connect to, and you're able to monitor the charging speed as well as rate on your device from afar. So it is very feature stacked. Again, the app control as well as desktop display mode, all these features were missing from the Base's version that we saw. However, one feature that the Base's version did have would be a Qi wireless charging pad that could also act as a stand for your phone. That function is missing on the top area of the Prime charger, for instance, although the total wattage output on here is even higher. Again, 250 watts versus Nomos here reaching 140 watts. So this thing is going to be even more powerful if you're trying to charge many devices, including laptops, simultaneously. Note, however, the first USB Type-C port can reach 140 watts, the second one reaches 100 watts, with the full-size USB Type-A port reaching maximum of 22.5 watts. So 250 watts if you're using all the ports simultaneously. However, again, a single port at maximum is 140 watts. Just keep that in mind. Obviously, that's still more than sufficient for charging up even more power-hungry devices, but in case in the future there's a smartphone that can have a charging input speed of over 200 watts, just keep in mind that the Prime charger will still be juicing it up at max 140 watts for that single device, but still very impressive. Now, the actual charger itself is a lot smaller than I was expecting. First box here contains the AC power adapter, pretty small, and then down below here we have just a quick user guide that documents how to access some of the core functions, including downloading the companion app to bind it to your phone using iOS or Android. So pretty simple and straightforward. Again, the charging dock itself is surprisingly not that large from a dimension point of view. Here it is next to kind of an average 6.5-inch phone, so it's not going to take up too much space on a desk, despite the pretty powerful output speeds. In fact, many laptop charging bricks back in the day might have been even larger than this thing, so it's pretty impressive. It's constructed out of a plastic polycarbonate with some kind of ridges as part of the texture going on, but still feels nice and dense, a little bit heavier than expected for the size. The front here just features the LCD display, not a touchscreen, but again we have a dial or knob. Sounds pretty satisfying as you're using it, and you can click on it as well to control things. We also have some additional accents going on here on the front, along with the 4 USB Type-C charging ports, followed by 2 USB Type-A ports here on the side. So in total, again, giving you those 6 different ports, some soft touch rubber here on the back to prevent it from sliding around, and all the different charging rates if multiple ports are used are listed there as well. So plugging it in, this is the initial boot. We can gauge the current wattage being drawn, as well as whether we're connected to the companion app or not, as well as the individual ports down below here and their charging speeds. We can further scroll along here to go into more advanced settings, even changing the screen brightness here, so pretty fully stacked. And you can also change a timeout setting as well. After X seconds, it will turn off to consume less power, as well as change into the mode setting. So right now it's going to automatically change dynamically based on the ports that are being occupied, but you can also charge it using a dual laptop mode that will be providing the maximum 140 plus 100 watts using these 2 ports as the priority, or going into a low current mode instead for charging smaller devices. And even access a screensaver mode, including the clock screensaver that we mentioned earlier, or turn it completely off. So specifically, it's the Anker app designed for all of their charging related products. We're going to tap to add a device, and it's going to detect devices nearby. It's found the Prime charger, allowing us to control it via Bluetooth, so you have to be within around a 10-meter range from the device to see the settings for more local access, or you can connect it to Wi-Fi, and that means regardless of where you are, you can be in even a different city altogether and still monitor the charging speed if you're on vacation, for example, and turn it off, as well as turn on certain ports, as long as this device is then connected to your router. So I've selected the Wi-Fi method, which is going to be necessary if you want to use the clock function, so it can act as an internet-connected desk clock, updating by itself automatically, and there's going to be some occasional firmware updates available. Afterwards, we can see similar information being displayed on the phone app here, including the charging speed and wattage drawn for all of the different ports, charging modes that we saw earlier on the dashboard of the charger, including the automatic mode, port priority, as well as the low current modes. And further down below here, you can also change the clock settings, including 12 versus 24-hour formats. Right now it's a flip style clock that also shows the day of the week as well as the date down below. But you can also change many other themes, even though on the original ad renders it seems like there's only 2 clock faces, but similar to a smartwatch, it seems they have expanded the list now, and there are over 11 ones that I'm seeing. So it will potentially grow over time with more holiday themed watch dials as well. Kind of neat idea as a desk decor item. So here are some of the other watch faces that you can push over pretty quickly. A more simplified, minimalistic style. This one here a bit more maybe sci-fi style. This one inspired by space with a moon there in the background. Here's another galaxy or space inspired theme. This one also looks pretty cool, as well as giving it a more mecha or sci-fi theme. And some more holiday examples here, such as birthday or maybe Christmas themed, you can also find a bit more colorful, plus other floral themes as well. So overall, pretty easy to customize. And although the display itself is fixed into place, it's slanted at an angle that makes it still pretty easy to see if you're looking down at it on your desk, as you can tell here. And the final section down below here allows us to control the specific ports in terms of setting a timer, so it turns off the individual charging ports after X hours, as well as minutes as well, giving you plenty of granularity, and you can even set a schedule for it to turn on in the morning and then turn off when you're going to sleep, for instance, to give you some automation control. One thing to note, however, is it looks like you don't get that same level of control for the USB Type-A ports. So these two you can't really change in terms of their speed, as well as turning them on or off for automation. It's only the 4 Type-C ports that give you that access. Before we take a closer look at the charging demo and performance, by the way, there's also a settings tab up top, allowing you to check for firmware updates, and there's also going to be some test and aka secret features that are available. It's not exactly as dynamic as giving you mini games, which would have been cool because there's a knob control on the side, but rather it's just some different emojis that you can unlock, as well as some badges if you have been using the charger for a while. Kind of like a smartwatch, there is some type of gamification aspect. One of the test features currently is a custom charging mode, and so if you don't like the presets of prioritizing 2 ports when charging laptops, you can completely customize it to dial up and down the charging speeds of each individual port and then save it as your own mode or profile. This is the equivalent of something like an EQ control or personalized sound test that they also have on some of their Soundcore audio products. Great to see, just like on their headphones, Anker continues to provide plenty of options in their app. And now moving into a charging demo, I'm going to plug it into a laptop here first. So it's telling us that we're currently drawing around 30 watts using that first port, which we can also tap on using the knob, by the way, if you want to enter and be able to get a closer look at the voltage as well as the amps, turning the port priority function on or off as well. It also has a gauge here that tells you if you've reached 100%, you are using 240 watts total. And over here on the cable, we can also confirm that we are indeed charging at around 30 watts, give and take. So the number seems reasonable enough. At least it's not over counting or making it seem like it's charging faster than it really is. And again, on the app, the information will be pushed over in real time, and we can also see how that charging speed changes over time, dialing down a little bit as it gets more full. So let's continue our demo by charging up yet another laptop. The charging here is once again going to start automatically, and now we are taking a total of around 73 watts, give and take, and we are currently using the 4th Type-C port here, as you can tell down below, for the charging. So the screen is also aligned to show the info on top of each port, which is a pretty nice design touch. Once again, we're able to track the data on the companion app as well. So let's continue our demo, now plugging in a 3rd laptop and see how it fares, again using Type-C here. And indeed the wattage here is slowly going up, now climbing to almost 100 watts, as each of the laptops are drawing around 30 to 40 watts apiece, depending on how full the batteries are. And to help speed things along, I've plugged in the fourth port, and now we have reached over 100 watts, as you can tell there. But again, with over 250 watts maximum that it can output, there's still plenty of juice that it can supply if your batteries are more empty or you're charging up a higher wattage input power station or device. So in most scenarios, tablets and regular ultra-portable laptops, even if you're charging up 4 simultaneously, it can still perform just fine. Glad to also report that even with the screen, built-in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, as well as 4 laptops being charged up, thermals are surprisingly cool even to the touch. It's in fact not even warm yet. So this thing is surprisingly pretty efficient. Individual device reaches 100%, the charging will stop for that individual port, continue charging the other ones until they reach full as well. Maybe only one remark is the Type-C ports are placed relatively close to one another. I mean, it still works fine in the vast majority of cables that I tried it with. Perhaps if they space it apart a little bit more, that could be even safer, although it's probably also because they want to align those ports with the display up top. And so if they wanted to space it apart, they have to make the screen even larger, which probably would add to the cost. But that's just a minor quirk. Again, in 95% of the time, regular cables here can be plugged in without too much interference. But on the topic of nice to have features, maybe if they also made the ports illuminated in the dark, that could also be a nice touch, making it as some type of night light, as well as maybe again adding a Qi charging pad on top for a next gen revision. But all in all, it is still very impressive from a charging performance point of view. Let's also plug in another device here using the USB Type-A port onto a smartphone now, and as you can tell, the charging will also start really without too many issues. Again, Type-A is going to provide upwards of 22 watts, so even though this isn't going to be quite as fast as the Type-C ports, which are powered by GaN, it can still be sufficient for many smartphones out there, particularly Google Pixel phones, which don't have super fast charging speeds to begin with, while as, again, wireless headphones, TWS buds can be another choice using the Type-A ports. So now we can see the individual rating on all of the ports being currently occupied, as well as down below here, again, the total output, how it fluctuates over time. One thing to note, though, is the time scale on the x-axis doesn't seem to be changeable. So it's always going to be on an hour-per-hour basis, which is why the data points here seem a little bit small. So that could be an interesting software revision if they can allow you to customize the scale here to zoom into minutes or half an hour instead of only full hour increments to give you another perspective. Since the charging here is so fast that in most cases you're only plugging it in for 1 hour maximum anyways, instead of leaving it plugged in for hours on end. And so the scale here could probably be reworked a little bit, since this one isn't an AC charger like some of their other products where you might be able to plug in something persistently and see how much power it's drawing. Again, this one is all using Type-C or Type-A. So once again, I'm coming away relatively impressed by the Anker Prime smart desktop charger. It is a relatively premium, surprisingly compact smart desktop charger, combining multiple features into one. And overall, I would say it one-ups the basis version as well from the perspective of app customization, also allowing you to do more with that built-in display. So that is more or less it as far as a quick look at 2 kind of new charging products from Anker. Although on our channel we've covered more of their Soundcore audio products, it is important to remember that this company started off at their roots as a charging company producing power banks and charging accessories like these. So this is really their bread and butter. And so looking at these 2 products as examples, I can understand why they've been popular. They are indeed quite stylish, but at the same time offering very solid charging performance. Being able to charge pretty much all of your tech items simultaneously while taking up minimal space on the desk, you can take a closer look if interested in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That has been the newer winter collection charging products from Anker.